and welcome. I'm Annette Reeder from thebiblicalnutritionist.com, and today it's all about what are the 21 top foods for you to have on hand in case of there's an emergency. And these are foods that are going to last a long time. Well, thanks for letting me share with you God's recipe for excellent health. And always remember, number one ingredient in that recipe is that God loves you with an amazing, everlasting love. Now let's get to these 21 foods. Number one for my list is always salt. Food tastes much better when we add salt. This is the brand that I use. It's Redmond salt. Whatever brand you use, make sure it's a good quality salt. Make sure you buy it in big quantities. I also have this stored in 1-gallon buckets, and that way I'm always going to have enough on hand. Salt is number one. Your family will love you if you have salt. Number two, it's our baking supplies. We need baking soda, and our baking soda I store in glass jars. We need baking powder. The baking powder needs to be a non-GMO. Both of these are going to be used for more than just baking, but for right now we're looking at baking. And you're going to need some extracts. Vanilla extract, if it's pure, is going to last you a long time because it has alcohol in it, and that is what stabilizes it to last. So make sure you have some good quality vanilla extract. Number three is wheat berries. This is a package of wheat berries that I picked up from Country Life. I'll put a link to that down below. What I do with my wheat berries is they are stored in 5-gallon food grade buckets. Most of them are stored inside a Mylar bag first, sealed, and then put in the bucket, and then that way I can store it for as many as 20 to 30 years. As long as you have a hand grinder in case the power goes out, you're good. Otherwise, as long as you have power and you just don't have food, you can mill this into whatever you want to eat. Next, we have rice. Now rice, you can have the basmati rice, you can have brown rice, you can have white rice. I store white rice because it's used to clean my mills. So my grain mills, if I put 1 cup of white rice in the mill, I can do that once a year and I will always have a fresh milling mill. So that is the only reason I have pure white rice in my house. The other is I keep brown rice. Now, I know it's said that you're not supposed to have brown rice for storage, but I've stored brown rice in Mylar bags in 5-gallon buckets for several years and then cooked it, and it was delicious. I know the standard is 6 months, but I'm just saying. If you want to store rice, though, that you know won't go bad, then that would be your basmati or your jasmine rice. They have more flavor than just plain white rice. But these do keep longer because the bran and the germ has been removed. Well, that's also all of your nutrition. Yet if you can keep your family happy and feeling good by serving them rice, then I would choose the basmati or the jasmine. My first choice is always brown rice, but then my second choice would be the basmati. Number 5 is barley. And this is the container I use in my pantry. It's not a container that's good for long-term storage. I'm using my 5-gallon buckets, I'm using Mylar bags, and I'm storing my barley that way. Barley has just a great texture for adding to soups. It can be milled into a flour. It's so versatile and it's very satisfying. Next is spices. Spices, you can definitely grow your own. I've got some basil growing here and dehydrate them, and you will never have to buy basil ever again. But you want to contain your spices in a glass container. That is going to keep longer than these plastic containers or even the Tupperware containers if you still have those. I buy these spices, and when I'm done using them, I will use these for my own personally dehydrated spices. So have the spices on hand that your family likes to enjoy with their foods. Number 7 is your sweeteners. For us, we store honey. You can see that this jar is starting to crystallize. Even if it does crystallize, I can bring it back to a liquid state just with some low temperature water, and it will do wonderful. It'll be perfect, and it's such a good antibacterial ingredient. I wrote about it in the Treasures of Health Nutrition Manual, all of the 95 different ingredients you get from raw honey. So it is the perfect sweetener, and plus we can relate it to the Bible. Other sweeteners might be a maple syrup, but you need to make sure you trust the company. Is it a pure maple syrup and not a fake maple syrup? Number 8 is meats. Meats are going to be your canned meats, whether it's the salmon, the tuna, or the chicken. Make sure you're buying the quality that's best for your family. But the best meat is always going to be what you pressure can yourself. So whether you have a deer hunter in the family, you can can the venison, or if you find organic ground meat on sale, you can buy extra and can that. But having canned meats is going to be ideal because this will last forever. I have a friend who has been hunting his entire life. I believe he's in his 70s now, and he had one of his canned meat taken to the university here in Redmond, and they tested it, and it was still perfectly clear of any bacteria that would have been harmful. It was totally healthful to still eat it. So this is always my best choice because you control it. You might also want to do some dehydrating. I have dehydrated chicken, I have dehydrated meats. These were actually sealed into a vacuum packed, and then I store this in my buckets in some Mylar bags. Even though this is not stored well, as you can see it right now, I keep it in Mylar bags in my buckets. And so this is not the perfect package, but how I have it in the other storage makes up for it. So your dehydrated meats is also an excellent opportunity for you to have stored meat on hand. Number 9 is beans, and we have to have beans in our storage because they are the perfect protein. They are easy to store and they are easy to cook. This is going to keep your family satisfied. It takes less food to feed your family beans than it does other foods that you may need to feed them. So this is the best economical value. You can stock up on them. You can put them into storage packages. This package I have here is a bean soup mix, but I wouldn't have to use it as a soup mix. I could actually mill it and turn it into a flour. I could make muffins out of this. I can do anything with these, or I could just cook it into a soup or add it to any rice and bean dish with some salsa. That would be a perfect meal when times are in an extreme situation. So beans is definitely number 9. Number 10 is canned foods. That could be canned foods that are actually canned from the store. It can be canned foods that are even in a jar, or it can be your own personally canned vegetables or your own personally canned foods, which could include soups. Whatever you have canned in your pantry, these are perfect to have because each one of these is going to last a minimum of 5 years, probably a lot longer than that. Number 11 is oats. You've seen my other videos where I use an oat flaker. That is because the oat berries are the most nutritious to store. So I keep my oat berries in my 1-gallon bucket in my pantry, and I keep my 5-gallon bucket in my storage container. And so when I have the berries, I can do almost anything with them. And I know I have the nutritional value because even though we are storing for a long time food storage, we don't want to lose the nutritional value. Yet I do also store already flaked oats. So I might buy the old-fashioned oats from the grocery store or the steel cut. Those can be stored for long-term storage, and you will always be able to satisfy your family. Number 12 is pasta. When we choose the semolina pasta or the durum, it's a little bit more nutritious than just the bland white flour pasta. So these are some, I actually got this on clearance, and I can store this in a more long-term storage container, but always look for items that are on sale, stock up on those, and then you have them ready to go. Or sometimes I will stock up on the mac and cheese if it goes on sale as well. It's going to give me a cheese packet that I can use as a flavoring. So right here I have pasta, I have a sauce, and I have dehydrated meats. And I have a meal that for my husband and I is going to last probably 2 or 3 meals. But if you have a family of 4 or 5 or maybe 6, you could feed them well and no one feels like we're in a shortage situation. Number 13 is castor oil. Castor oil is so important because it has so many medicinal benefits, and we need to always be prepared. One, it's the perfect digestion helper. In other words, just rubbing it on the tummy at night, covering it up with maybe a towel or your pajamas, and your liver is going to have a healing effect, and your digestive system is just going to work better. Now, we can go ahead and forget about how it's going to help your nails, your hair, and your skin. That may not be what's most important, but we do need to keep the digestive system healthy. Next is Epsom salt. This is number 14. Epsom salt can be used for medicinal purposes, for relaxing sore muscles, for using in your garden to get the plants to be more prolific. There are so many uses for Epsom salt that I would stock up on this and have this available. And then we come to hydrogen peroxide. This is number 15. You have the hydrogen peroxide in the brown bottle, which is good for many uses around the home and for cuts and scrapes like that. But many people are starting to switch to the food grade hydrogen peroxide. There is some teachings that this is containing some heavy metals and some contaminants, whereas this is a pure form of hydrogen peroxide. So consider having both on hand. Number 16 is vinegar. And yes, it can be a good quality apple cider vinegar, but you might also want to have on hand the white distilled vinegar. White distilled vinegar is the perfect for cleaning your home. It's very inexpensive and it can store forever. Also, apple cider vinegar. You can use this in your cooking, for your salad dressings, for many different uses. It's also a medicinal value. So having apple cider vinegar on hand, if it's not opened, it'll last for years in your pantry. I'm bringing back up baking soda because besides the cooking benefit that we have, it also can be used for cleaning. Cleaning your body, being a toothpaste for you, it can be used as its own for a toothpaste, stops odors, and it's a household cleaner. It's just a good staple item to have on hand. Now, I'm only just touching the surface on all of these ingredients because there are hundreds of uses for each one of these. That's why I want you to have them on hand. Number 18 is granola. I just made a fresh batch of granola just for this video. It has such nutritional value to it, and it's a good staple item that I can either put in my canning jars or I can actually seal it up in some Mylar bags with an oxygen absorber, and it will last probably for a couple years and stay nice and fresh. And that is a food that my husband loves. I know he'll be happy. It gives him some energy. It gives him some of the oats for some protein. And so he's going to be able to do whatever he needs to do depending on what happens in our country. And so just having this as a good food. Sometimes I just don't feel like cooking. And so knowing I have some granola stored up, I just pull it out and say, hey, would you like a treat? And then he's happy. So just having some granola for your family to love and enjoy, it makes a breakfast, it makes a lunch, makes a dinner, makes a snack. It's a good, food to grab if you're going to be out in the car for a long time. It's a perfect food. Next is dried fruit. So these are my raspberries that I dehydrated myself. I had the most prolific year 2 years ago, and I still have containers and containers of my dried raspberries. Well, the grandchildren have figured out where I store them, and they love them. And so we can use these in almost anything. So dried fruits are a good food to have on hand. If you see fruit on sale at the grocery store, grab it, dehydrate it, and then you can store it. But that also includes your raisins, and then this is another package of raisins too. These store really well until you open them. Once you open them, then you need to put them in another type sealed container to make sure that they last. But they will typically last 1 to 2 years if they're stored well. And these also are going to be a delight to whoever's in for a good sweet snack. Number 20 is going to be other dehydrated foods. And so for that, I have an example of this lentil soup mix. Now it's technically just a dried food, but it's ready to go. It's a soup mix that's ready to go. So when you're looking for packaged dehydrated foods, typically dehydrated foods are going to last a long time. So see what your family likes, put that on your list, and then start stocking up on extras. And then number 21 is going to be the candy. Yes, you have to have candy. So many times I will find organic candy on clearance, and for the most part, as long as it's not opened, it will last a very long time. And so my grandkids have figured out where I store these suckers. Usually my husband gets into them when he is in for a treat. I buy organic suckers and then I store them. I keep them in our bug out bags because you never know, one, if you need to keep a child quiet, or two, if you just need to help them be happy that, okay, we're having a normal day. It just may seem off, but we're having a normal day because we have candy. Well, before I continue, I just want to point out, I do have the Proverbs 31 Prepper book. It has all of the guidelines to get you started on learning how to store, what to store, how much to store, and then a lot of useful tips on even a chapter on how to praise the Lord when times are tough. Because we need to learn how to do that as well. We need to have a hymnal in our home. And then I have all kinds of different uses for the hydrogen peroxide, for the Epsom salt, just so many other things. It's all in this one book. It's called the Proverbs 31 Prepper. Nutrition is key for survival. Learn the 4 essential steps to feed your family well during difficult times. I don't want you to sacrifice healthy foods during a crisis. I want you to choose the best quality and then know that you're doing your family a good service. And so that is 21 things that you should have on hand. These are the top 21 for my family. Decide which ones of these are great for your family, which ones do you need to swap out with something else. But everything I've shared with you here, I can make probably multiple different meals. I've got the baking, I've got the meat, I've got the dried goods. I have everything I need. The only thing you might want to add is maybe some powdered milk or some type of dairy if that's important for your family. Well, thanks for letting me share with you the top 21 foods to have on stock for an emergency. And these foods are going to last a long time.